Hey, it's Dr. Karin. In this video, I'm going to share with you some tips and techniques that I've learned over the years that are surefire ways to deal with toxic people and protect your energy so you can have a happier life. Let's jump in. The first thing to know and remember about toxic people is they're not your responsibility. You know who is your responsibility? You and only you. While that may feel super heavy, it's actually the most empowering thing that you can ever come to realize along your spiritual path, because that empowers you to remove yourself from these abrasive, harmful situations that are really bad for your well-being, specifically your vibration. Because as you're evolving as a spiritual being, your vibration, you're learning how to raise your vibration and raise your frequency and raise your consciousness. And what you really desire in your life is to feel happy and joyful and at peace. And toxic people rob you of that. They can be energetic vampires, right? Every one of us has one or two people in our lives. Hopefully it's in your history, but if it's in your present, you know how it feels to consistently run into them, consistently have your inner peace disrupted. And what happens in that moment is you give your power away. So I want to talk to you about how to avoid giving your power away to toxic people and toxic situations, and how to feel more empowered about your own life. One of the top things to remember is that at all times, specifically, we're all projecting onto others how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about the world. People that are super happy, that are happy with their own greatness, happy with their own life, happy with the world, and feel confident in that, feel no need to bring down other people. There's a saying that goes, greatness never pulls down greatness. So when somebody is feeling not great within themselves, extremely insecure about themselves, about the world, about their life, they are walking around not feeling comfortable with people that seem to be at a level of mastery that they haven't reached yet. So what they want to do with that greatness is try to pull it down. So if somebody in your life is trying to squelch you, is trying to dim your light, is trying to make you feel bad, because that's what they're trying to do, what's really happening is that they want you to feel the way, and this is probably subconscious, but they want you to feel the way that they feel inside. Most of them aren't directly doing it. They don't come at you saying, oh, I feel like shit today, so I want you to feel like shit. No, they're being emotionally triggered to some old behavior. So they don't feel comfortable with the resonance of you being as amazing as you are. So what they want to do is make you feel bad. And the lowest point of consciousness that they can bring you down to is a point of shame. Now, how do we make people feel ashamed? Criticizing them, complaining about how they're not good enough, giving them the look, engaging in reminders of how they fail, engaging them in reminders of how they're not like they used to be, or not like this person, or whatever it is. All of those kinds of communications bring out shame in other people. And that is the most typical dynamic within toxic relationships. So it happens when you're having that dynamic with that person. When they're bringing you down to shame, that's dropping you to the lowest point of consciousness. You are not meant to reside there. That's why it's so uncomfortable. Your soul is like, whoa, like, I know to feel really good about myself, and you're making me feel like shit right now. So what am I going to do? And you have that point of decision to make. If you've been in a dynamic with them over and over again that's gotten nowhere, my guess is you've done what most of us usually do, and that is come back at them with something with the same level of the same vibrational level of attack, right? Well, you know, if they've told you you're doing something, then what do? You come back, well, but you do this and you do that. So what you're trying to do, your vibration has lowered. And so you're coming back at them with shame invoking responses, right? Because you're triggered. So you want them to come down to where you are. So what happens then is you do this dance where you're both shaming each other. You're both toxic. You're both trying to prove that you're right, they're wrong. Nothing comes of that. All of the energy that could have been around solving whatever it is that needs to be solved is lost, because shame, attacking shame, holds the vibration of each of you, of the room, of the relationship at the lowest vibrational point. That is why it feels so bad. So we want to teach you how to elegantly respond to toxic people, how to, in your elegance, we're going to teach you how to raise the vibration of the energy in the room when they show up, or when they're messaging you, or when they're doing that thing that triggers you. Because in an elegant response, in a response that is there to draw boundary and or evoke or draw out or expand love, joy, peace, although I know it feels impossible to do with that person. Remember, you're not responsible for them, nor are you their savior, nor are you their therapist. You are there to be responsible for you and the inner peace that you carry with you to your next endeavor and your next interaction with them. So what happens when you're having consistent interaction with a toxic person, you're sending your emotional body into a fight or flight. Everyone's heard this back in Psychology 101. You're having a fight or flight response, and your sympathetic nervous system is going to react. And what it's going to do is it's going to want to protect itself. And on a hormonal level, on a systemic level, you're going to be releasing cortisol into your system. So that helps if you're running away from a tiger, because what happens then is all the energy gets sent into your arms and legs, and you want to run or you want to fight back. You either flee or you fight or you hide, but it's an automatic response as the body is trying to save itself. So when this is happening over and over, let's say this toxic person is someone that you live with. If this is happening over and over again, you are experiencing this cortisol release constantly, and you're constantly in a state of fight or flight. Now, this is for the extreme situations. This is so unhealthy for your body. What's happening then is when you go into that fight or flight state, all the reserves that usually are there for your immunity, for your wisdom, for your clarity, for your ability to figure out problems, all the things that you typically do on a daily basis, all of the reserves in your body get taken from those networks in your body, and they're thrown into your arms and legs, literally, so you can run or fight. And that's where that emotional response comes back. When you're persistently being put in this situation, you are lowering your immunity. You are in a constant state of not being able to concentrate, not being able to create, not being able to feel happy, not being able to be in a healthy state in a relationship, not only with others, but with yourself. And this is why this new learned response is so important, so you can consistently bring yourself up to levels of higher well-being, where you're emitting things like dopamine and serotonin into your system, so you can then maintain a higher state of wellness and of health and of happiness in your life. Okay, so let's just jump into some simple techniques that you can use with your response now that you know why it's so important with toxic people. Number one, keep it short and sweet. The more you go on and on, the more you apologize. More specifically, the more you over-explain yourself, the why you're trying to make your point, the why you're the way you are, the why, the historic stuff, all it's doing is it's adding fuel to the fire. It's adding more energy around this argument that this person is actually getting fed off of. Toxic people love the argument. They love the dance. They're actually being fed by it. That's why they keep evoking this from you. The point is, no one's going to convince the other that they're right or wrong if you've been doing this for a while, or even in the moment when something's having, like say you're in traffic and you're having a toxic like road rage response with somebody. You're not going to convince that person in that moment that whatever maneuver you just did was right, okay? That's never going to happen with a person that is at that level of emotional arousal when they're responding to you that way. So it's up to you. Take your breath. When you respond, keep it extremely short. Avoid over-explaining or giving excuses or apologizing. Those are surefire ways that you can stop that pattern of continuing the dance between you and them. The way to disarm toxic people is by doing something different, okay? So we want to intercept this. Take a minute, take a breather. If you can't leave the conversation, what I want you to do, take a breath. If you can go to the restroom or go to your room for a minute or go to the bathroom of the restaurant, whatever it is, take your minute. Do some deep breathing. That's the simplest technique you can do to lower the levels of cortisol in your body, to bring yourself back to more homeostasis. Then when you have to return, or maybe it's on messaging and you're going to be responding to them, I want you to just acknowledge to them how they're feeling. Just reflect back to them, because what's typically happening, just like it's happening with you, this is you rising to a place of higher consciousness. They just want to be heard. You don't have to agree with it, but you can say, I hear that you're feeling blank. It's very simple. You've probably heard Dr. Phil do it. It's a simple psychological response because it works. People just want to know that they're heard, okay? So respond back to them. Oh, I hear that you're feeling blank. That must be really hard. You're going to totally disarm them. They're not going to know what the hell to do. If what you said to them isn't right and they keep going, you can say, oh, well, maybe tell me again, help me to clarify. Repeat back to them. Just by hearing their feelings reflected back, you will disarm their emotional response. The other way is to use something called nonviolent communication, which is actually compassionate communication. So what you're doing with this is you're stating then in response, if this is someone again that you have in your life and you can't get rid of, that you need to start a new, healthier way of elegantly responding. You can say, I hear what you're saying. When you say that, and you may have heard this before, but I'm going to keep it really succinct for you. It makes me feel blank, and here is what I need. And then you state the need that you have following that. If this person is extremely toxic, they're not going to likely be able to meet your need, but you can make the request on the hopes that they're going to be able to meet you where you are. By using this compassionate approach, you're acknowledging their feelings and you're also giving them a chance to hear yours. People that are ready to make a shift with you will soften in that moment. The number one key when you're using that technique is to minimize the amount of times you use the word you. Because when you use the word you in having a conversation with someone, they automatically are going to try to defend themselves. So in your mind, as you're just expressing the way that you feel, if you feel like there's space for that, really pay attention to how many times you use the word you and try to minimize it. Just express the way that you're feeling and what you really need. So before I give you the finally boundary drawing response with toxic people, if you like finding out different techniques like this that you can use with people in your life, please like this video if you've enjoyed the material, and go ahead and subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to be giving you more tips and techniques and tools as time goes on, and I want you to get the videos as soon as they're released. Let's get back to the final tips. So the final tip I want to give you is one on the goal of you finding your pathway to self-mastery. This is something that I have been really intentional about this year. And these toxic people are actually the ones in your life that give you the biggest opportunity for growth and to practice self-mastery. And the biggest component of someone that has perfected or is learning how to be self-masterful is you learn how to not to be a reactor, but to be an observer. And how this looks in relationship with toxic people is you've kept your answers short, you haven't emotionally reacted, like I've covered. You've taken your time in your response, and instead of reacting emotionally, like I just showed you in compassionate communication, you stayed in observation. You repeat back to them how they're feeling. You just state how you're feeling without accusing them of anything. You state an observation of what you see going on, and you state a need that you have, if it's possible that they can give that to you. If not, come back to self-mastery. Catch yourself from responding emotionally. Take a moment to separate yourself from that knee-jerk emotion that you typically would respond to them with. Practice a self-mastery of what's going on, and if you need a final statement to them, you can just say, you know what, I'll get back to you on that. You know what, I need some time to think about this. I hear you, I hear that you're feeling that way. I need some time to think about this, and then disengage from them. And again, the disengagement is up to you. I hope you've learned about more ways to take your power back when dealing with toxic people, and how to be more elegant in your response and do things that actually contribute more to your well-being, because I want you to have a happy life. So if this information is really hitting home with you and you would love more information, more clarity on dealing with toxic people in your life, I have a free checklist that is just for you, the 15 signs, warning signs, and red flags of toxic people in your life. It's totally free. You can download it today and start your journey to freedom.